Mary O'Flynn is a well-known name within the Society of African Missions in Ireland. For many years, she's had a pivotal role in the office in Wilton. And after 46 years of devoted service to SMA, she's retired, but still remains a member of the family. Because in 2018, she was invited to become an honorary member of the Society.
The first 4 years of my life I spent in Highfield Avenue. We lived with my mother's aunts and uncle. When I was 4 years old, we moved out to Liam Lynch Park in Glasheen. And that's where I'm living up to this day. And I often say, if I won the lotto in the morning, I wouldn't move. When we came out there first, there was a farmyard across the road. Where the petrol station is now was the farmhouse, and the CUH wasn't even heard of. Now, it was earmarked for a hospital, but it wasn't built. And we used to play up there as children. It was a very marshy area, and we used to catch tadpoles in a little pool there. And well, last year I was up there for treatment, and I used to say to the young nurses, I used to play up here as a child. And one of them said to me one day, was it not always a hospital? So yeah, I'm still there since I was 4 years old. My first introduction was, I suppose, as a small child, going to Mass with my mother, you know, before my school days, and trying to be good and stay still. And she would tell me that she'd tell my dad that I was good at Mass if I was quiet. Then as a teenager, I used to come up to the Miraculous Medal Novena with my father on a Sunday night. And I'll always remember one particular Sunday night, there was no organist. And the priest who didn't sing said, could somebody please start the Tantum Ergo? And my father jokingly said to me, let you start. So I don't know who got the bigger fright, him or me, but I did start. No, I haven't a great voice, but everybody joined in, so it was okay. So that was my first memory. And walking in the long avenue with my dog, you know, which is near where the Wilton roundabout is now. And there was a sign at the gate that said private property. No admittance except on business. So I told myself I had business with the Lord, I was going to the church. So I went up to the church that way. So that's how I used to walk in the Long Avenue.
So how was it that you got a job working with the SMA?
Well, I joined the Legion of Mary at the time, and there was a little kiosk out in front of the church, near where the little walkway to, we'd say, the Wilton bar is now. And Father Tom Gorman at the time, the Lord have mercy on him, knew I was looking for a job. And the lady who they had in the office here at the time was called to the civil service. So he asked me, would I be interested? So that's how it started. And 45 years later, well, I'm retired now, but I was here up to a couple of weeks ago.
With very fond memories. And how far back do those memories go in that? Can you remember some of the first people that were here when you came to work here?
Yes, well, Father Tom Gorman was the community leader, the superior at the time. Father Frank Doyle, Father Pat Hurst, Father Harry Shepherd, Father Saul, Father Jim Murphy. You know, they were here for different reasons in the house. Some of them used to teach the students various classes. So, you know, they were all great men, I must say. They've all passed on now.
Many of the students went on to be very well-known priests.
They did indeed.
And what were they up to while they were around? Any escapades?
Well, they were, I suppose, and I was with them on one of them. I remember they used to go out and ring the Angelus at 6 o'clock. Two of them used to go out. The bells weren't automated at that stage. And one night I said to one of the lads, I said, the next time you're going out, can I go out with you? So sure enough, when it was his turn, he came in and we went out together and we started to ring the Angelus. Now, I knew it was 3 3s and a 9, and I was prepared for the pull down on the bell, but I wasn't prepared for the pull back up, so I nearly ended up in the rafters.
So were they a bunch of scamps?
Yeah, they used to like to play jokes, you know. They were. They were. I remember one particular year I got a Valentine card and I couldn't figure out where the Valentine card came from, but of course it was from the lads, just to tease me a bit.
Very good. And what was your awareness of Africa? Because Africa was a long, long way away.
Yeah.
And did you become very much aware of Africa because of your connection?
Well, I think when I started here, I just pictured Africa as a country. I didn't realise that, that'll tell you how good my geography was. I didn't realise what a huge continent it was, and, how many different countries and different peoples were there, The fathers loved working in Africa. They all wanted to go back, priests that came home on holidays, they loved their time at home with their families, but they always wanted to go back to Africa. I believe they're wonderful people. Now, I've met some of them, of course, but they have so little and they're so happy in their lives, they're so grateful for what they get,
What was the day-to-day work like? Did it have any connection with Africa?
Well, I suppose when I started first, my main job really was to answer the door and the phone and do any typing that was required by the fathers, or any photocopying. And then as time went on, I think it was in 1982, Wilton was made a parish church and the Mass Card office was moved over to the parish centre. Then in 1992, the students went to Maynooth for their spiritual year, and Wilton became a retirement house for SMA priests. We also began promoting Mission Association cards. These cards are bought by people and they're remembered in the prayers and masses of the community here in Wilton, and other houses do this also. And it's a very good way of supporting the missions, and it's still continuing on today.
You had a few buddies here from the early days, like Tom McHenry.
That's right, yes. Like Tom was here when I came first. My first memories of Tom was when I used to walk in the avenue with the dog, and he used to pass me in his Morris Minor car, and he'd always wave. I suppose Tom would be the longest here apart from myself. Mary in the kitchen then would be next after me. So anyone that has come to work here has stayed a long time, which I think is a very good sign of a place. The SMA have been very good to me, and I hope, that it has worked both ways.
What about the geography of the place itself? That has changed, and the buildings and the development of the parish centre.
That's right. The parish centre wasn't there, obviously, when I started. There was a little hall there, which was known as the ICA hall, and I think it was the ICA used to use it most of the time. The Legion of Mary that I belonged to at the time used to meet there as well. And then that was knocked and the parish centre was built, and there was another building out there which I think was called the Old Chapel, and that was knocked as well, and the parish house and some other rooms were built. So the whole area has changed. The Wilton roundabout, wasn't heard of at the time. I can't remember the name of the priest now, but he came back after being away for many years. He couldn't find his way into it. He had to get directions.
The property was used an awful lot for farming at one point in the early stages.
That's right,
and
yeah.
Was it very much a farming kind of group here?
Well, when I started first, there used to be cows in the field outside. They used to sell apples and eggs. They're the two things that I remember. And people used to come, now not to me, but they used to come up and buy apples and eggs.
Did students take part in some of the agricultural activities?
Well, they used to go out and pick potatoes, I believe. I forgot about the potatoes. And they used to, in the winter months, they'd spend a lot of time brushing up leaves. That was part of their duties. And they used to help clean the church as well, as far as I remember. Sister Columbanus, God rest her, she was an OLA sister, and she used to oversee them, and she was quite strict, I believe, to make sure that they did their work correctly.
How did you view all the changes with the things like the shopping centre and the isolation that you had in here before that? Suddenly the avenue was gone outside, yes, before the church, and there was a new shopping centre. How did you view all of that?
It was a bit of a shock to the system, because I remember I have a nice picture at home of the field where the shopping centre is now. The hay had just been cut and it was a beautiful golden colour. So like it took a while to get used to it. And then I remember when the shopping centre was there for a few years, they discovered that the trees were unsafe. The trees in the avenue were old and some of them had disease and they had to be knocked. And I knew they were going to do that on a Sunday morning. They started at 6 o'clock. But I remember coming up to Mass that morning, and when I turned the corner of the shopping centre and saw the gap in the trees, I remember my stomach literally flipped. But I mean, it was necessary, it had to be done, and they have planted new trees since, which have grown up beautifully. When you come in here, I mean, a lot of people have come in to me for various things, for Mass cards if the parish centre is closed. And they can't believe that there's such a quiet place down here in the midst of all the bustle of the shopping centre. You know, they can't believe that there's such a peaceful oasis down here.
What would be the highlights of your time here?
One of the special moments from my time in Wilton is, I remember Cardinal O'Fee visited the community, and it was really nice to be here for that, you know. And then last year, Bishop Fintan Gavin also visited the community, and it was really lovely to meet him and to be here for that. Then also last year in November, the Superior General, Father Antonio, and one of the General Council, Father Christoph, were visiting Ireland, and they came to Wilton for lunch and to visit the community, and I was invited up for lunch that day, and Archbishop Kieran O'Reilly was also here the same day, and I must say it was a beautiful experience for me. I felt very important, and it's something I'll always remember.
The parish centre now is a very vibrant community, really, isn't it?
Indeed it is.
How do you view that?
Well, it's very, very well used, you know, and I sometimes wonder what did people do before it was there, you know, because I mean there's groups there the whole time, you know, lots of different groups. You know, I got a list recently now when I was retiring to find out what different activities were on up there, and I was amazed at all the different activities that are there.
So it's a great atmosphere, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is.
It's a great asset to the community.
It is, and it's lovely to go in there, which I intend to do now too, that I'm retired, to go in for a cup of coffee after Mass in the mornings. You know, there's you know, you'd know most people, and it'd be nice just to sit down and chat.
So how did Mary O'Flynn become a member of SMA?
Well, in May 2018, Father Colin O'Shea, the community leader, asked me to go up to his office. And I'd say he could see by the look on my face that I said to myself, what have I done? So he said, no, there's nothing wrong, he said. I just wanted to ask you, how would you feel about becoming an honorary member? your name has been put forward to the Provincial Council. So I said, I'd love it. So then he asked me to write to Father Michael McCabe, the Provincial, and explain my association with the SMA and asking him to admit me as an honorary member, which I did. So Father McCabe forwarded my request to Rome, and on the 18th of September 2018, Father Faulkner O'Driscoll, the Superior General, admitted me as an honorary member of the Society of African Missions. Then on the 14th of December 2018, Father Michael McCabe and Father Malachi Flanagan and Father Colin O'Shea celebrated Mass to give me my certificate as an honorary member. There were some of the fathers from Blackrock Road came over also. The fathers from Wilton were here, some of my friends and the staff. And after the Mass we had a beautiful lunch, and I must say it was the best day of my life. I suppose I never feel that I deserve honorary membership, but I'm so happy to be a member of the SMA. I have a small family. I was an only child, and my father had only one sister, but she died when she was quite young, and my mother was an only child also. So to be part of the SMA family means the world to me.
So, the SMA have a wonderful legacy, which you are very much aware of. What do you see as the legacy of the SMA in their work in Africa?
I suppose the legacy is that the SMA went out to Africa to bring the Word of God out to the peoples of Africa. And that is what the founder wanted, to make a local church. And that's exactly what they have done. You know, a lot of the priests in Africa now and bishops are Africans, and that's the way it was supposed to be. And I'll always remember one day at Mass, I suppose it must be about 50 years ago, there was an African priest saying Mass, and he said in his homily, he said, the time will come when we'll be coming over here to preach to ye. And I remember we couldn't believe it, but sure, it's happening. It's happening. So, like, the legacy of the SMA is that the African church has thrived and is continuing to thrive, and that is the way it was meant to be. That was the founder's vision.
So how does Mary view retirement?
I'm getting used to it at the moment, but I'm happy that I have retired. I feel it was the right thing for me, just right now. I didn't want to leave it until I was maybe a bit more decrepit, and that I would just retire and stay at home and, maybe never go outside the door again. I wanted to retire while I still had a bit of energy, and I feel it was the right thing, and I think I have left the office in good hands between Anna and Megs.
And they gave you a good send-off.
They did.
Could you tell me about the party?
Well, I told Father Noel that I didn't want a send-off, and he said, we can't let you go without something. So it was originally to be a barbecue, but the weather didn't permit, so we had the night in the parish centre, and I must say it was a wonderful night. I met people that I hadn't seen for a while, a lot of priests that had been students, including Father Noel in my time, and in Tom's and Mary's time as well. And it was lovely to see them all, and the staff here from Wilton and the staff from the parish centre and some of the staff from Blackrock Road. I didn't realise I was so popular, to be honest with you. It gave me a great lift, I must say.
It has been a privilege working with Mary. I was very blessed because I came in 1978, so she's with the SMAs longer than I am. And of course she didn't tell me what they were like when I entered, and because of that I'm still with them, but certainly she has seen many of us come through here as students. There's a number of us here in the room here that came here as students, and we've known Mary for many years, And I know that for many of us, when we come to Wilton, Mary's always been the face that we've all seen, and we've always been very, very grateful for that. And I did say to her, even though she's retiring, that keep her phone open, because we will be phoning her every day for this problem or that problem. Because you get a letter in, and you go in with the letter to ask, and she's able to tell you who the person is before she even reads it. She knows by the writing. So Mary, thank you on behalf of all of us and many, many SMAs. A very big thank you.
Mary, you were always there for us. When we went up to the office, if there was a problem, you always greeted us with open arms and gave us a big hug. And not only was it your retirement, it was also your birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
That's right.
All right. For she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow, and so say all of us.
You can sit down.
So I have been working with Mary here in Wilton for 40 years, and I know her since the time she came. I knew her father and mother as well, and Mary is a lovely person. We got on fantastically, and I wish her all the best in her retirement, and hope she won't forget us and call up off and on to see us.
I have known Mary since the mid-80s, and I came to work in Wilton with the students, and I found her to be so diligent, cooperative, very easy to get on with. She was willing to do whatever was requested, and also her personality, her spirituality. She had a great sense of God working in her life.
Mary has given us an example of dedication and devotion to duty far beyond the normal, and we have relied on her so much over the years for so many of our problems, which she solves. Amen.
None fairer in Erin go broad, but where are the boys that can court them?
And there was a fair bit of singing.
There was indeed, there was, yes. Yeah, Tom has a lovely voice, and Father Gus, of course. Oh, and Fola from Africa, she sang beautifully as well. Oh, and Father Angelo, he sang, yeah.
I think I saw it as a very warm occasion, the night of your retirement.
It was very relaxed, which suited me fine, because I'm not great at being the centre of attention, but I was very relaxed that night.
Is at home in Northern Ireland, where? In the county of Armagh.
So, Mary, any plans for your retirement? Do you have lots of activities planned, or taking it easy?
Well, I'll do a bit of both. I suppose what I'm looking forward to in one sense is getting up on a wet, frosty winter's morning and not having to go to work. But having said that, I've been very happy in my job here in Wilton. I suppose not many people could say that my Wilton is a home for me, but I do intend to get involved in activities in the parish centre and in the library. I'm not a traveller, but you'd never know. And I'm catching up with people I haven't seen for a while, so that's lovely too.
So in all the time associated with the African mission,
I never went to...
Did you ever get to Africa?
I didn't, no.
And you know all the stories of Africa. I'm sure as people passed through here, they talked about the trials and tribulations of Africa as well.
That's right.
Did you hear many stories like that?
Yes, oh yes indeed, and stories of drought and of, cattle dying and, having no water. I was even thinking recently, now the water was turned off at home, and I had to run the tap for a while before I could get a clean glass of water, and I was thinking how the people in Africa would have loved to have that water that I was just, letting run. As I say, like they have so little and they're so grateful for what they have.
So what about the parish priest passing through here? Did you have any stories about the parish priests and your involvement with them?
Nothing in particular really, to be honest. I got on with all of them. I didn't have anything directly to do with them because, I worked in the house and they were in charge of the parish. But I got on with everybody here over the years, to be honest with you. Actually, one funny story that I think of. I answered the phone one day to an Italian priest, and his English wasn't good. So he asked to speak to one of the fathers. So I had Spanish in school. So I said to him, un momento, por favor. And he, thinking I spoke Italian, said, oh, grazie, grazie. So I prayed that the priest that I was looking for would be at the other end of the phone because I couldn't go any further with my Italian. So luckily he was.
Were there any kind of amusing incidents, Mary?
Well, I'm not sure now if you would call it amusing, but I remember one of the fathers died towards the end of the year, and sometime later I was going up the corridor where his room was, and at that time there was you turned on the light at one end of the corridor and then you couldn't turn on the second light until you got halfway up. So I was coming up the corridor and it was about 5:30, 5:45 in the evening, a winter's evening, and I saw this black shadow standing outside his door. So I stopped for a minute, but then I got courage and I continued on, and I switched on the light to find that obviously his room was being cleared out and his soutane was hanging outside the door. So that's what I saw. Not a ghost after all. I've made many friends here over the years. I've had ups and downs in my life, and they've supported me and been there for me, and a lot of them have gone to their reward, but some are still very much part of my life. I'll only mention one in particular because otherwise I'm going to leave people out, and I don't want to do that. But I wouldn't be here only for Father Tom Gorman, who gave me my job here nearly 46 years ago. As I say, the SMA have been part of my life for as long as I can remember, and I hope they'll continue to do so. I'll continue to stay in touch. I was here this morning now before I met you with the staff in the kitchen, and I had a cup of tea with them, and being an honorary member, I'll be up for various occasions. And as I say, the SMA, it's like a second home to me.